Marhaba and hello to our brothers and sisters, friends around the world of the Palestinian people, especially those these days in Gaza who have been confined there for about 15 years. I'm American historian and writer Jack Dempsey, living in Crete these days, and with me, as usual, in almost our 20 programs on Palestinian life, ancient right up till modern and today, is Muhammad Jihad Ismael, a writer and historian who lives in Deir el-Balah in the Gaza territory. Our families have gotten to know each other over the past couple of years now, and we've been doing a program that we started to call Family to Family, where we're trying to connect individuals or families around the world with Palestinian people directly so that you can work out a friendship and any kind of helpful relationship that you might care to offer and work out with them. There is no bank, no NGO, no nothing involved. All your money goes directly to these people. Yeah, that's about the only way you can help them. They can't even receive books. That's the degree of their imprisonment. So please look at the info down below here that we always post for people's convenience. The other thing we always ask is up front, contact your government, please, your own government, a letter, an email, a phone call, maybe more than one, and demand changes to the policies that are either indifferent to or supportive of Israeli apartheid, which has kept Muhammad's family among millions of people for 15 years at least now. And there's a greater, of course, dispossession going on all over the territory, as we know. So, Mohammed, I'd like to turn it over to you and ask you how you are, your beautiful young family, how they're all doing, your day to day living, and the latest in your building onto your house, as we've been trying to help you out with. Hello.
Hello, brother. Good evening for you and for all of our friends. I am happy to be talking with you again. We are good, brother. The situation in Gaza, as usual, we haven't to describe it all the time because you know the fact of our life. It's very, very bad more than words can express, more than the journalist reports can reflect.
And
The
just this week,
situation,
I might mention that you and I live in almost a similar geographical region. The past week or so has been very cold and very rainy, and there's been a real shortage of electricity in your home, almost only 2 hours a day, and you and your family managed to cuddle up with some blankets that you were able to obtain and trying to keep yourself warm. And one other thing we're always looking for ways to help people understand though that situation, which is such a given to you, Mohammed, that it's really important for people to know. Well, look at the photographs coming out of Ukraine. Ruined, bombed, burned out cities, people by the thousands displaced, suffering. They have no services, they have no homes. What are they going to do? Turkey is just like this too. We've seen the films now of these collapsing buildings, the horror of, I think it's 20,000 people and counting that have died in the Turkey earthquakes. Well, those conditions are exactly what it's like in Gaza. Bombed out buildings, lack of services, starvation, no good water, hardly any hospitals or medicines. This is what it's like, is it not, Mohammed? People should understand that.
yes, brother. But I think what happened in Turkey, Syria, and Ukraine is something temporary, something for maybe some
Exactly.
month, a few years. But we have this, but we have this since 75 years, right? And right now, and if you want to look to the future to predict any kind of hope, unfortunately, you will not find any hope. So we have this sort of continuous suffering since Nakba, the catastrophe in 1948, and right now.
And for such a brilliant people, I read somewhere once that there are more people with PhDs in Gaza per square mile than there are anywhere else in the world. And for such a brilliant cultural people, that has to be the worst torture of all, the lack of hope, that there seems to be no way out of this situation.
Yes, yes, of course, brother. Yes. Gaza is the biggest open air jail in the world.
A
You
prison.
know, here we have a very big number of population. You speak about 2 million and a half people living in a very very limited area of land, and all of our borders are surrounded with guns and tanks. even
And
even
barbed
our
wire.
own, yeah, yeah, exactly, brother. Even our only open window, which is the Mediterranean coast, also this window is closed totally by the Israeli Navy. We cannot go 2 or 3 miles offshore the Gaza coast, because directly the Israeli Navy will shoot you and will kill you directly.
Yes. And this is many times more difficult because the people who live along the coast have always traditionally been fishermen. Much of their diet and their protein comes from fish, and they are not able to obtain it anymore. So, where do they turn to? The United Nations or UNRWA, other organizations? Well, that's not living, it's living off help and charity. And it's just from every direction they have confined you in there. But let me just repeat for the benefit of you and everybody in Gaza and the Palestinians in general, there is a way to reach over these walls. There is a way to reach over these walls and develop the relationships and friendships that Muhammad and I and his family have come to share. It's family to family. Get in touch with us. We, Muhammad, that is, will directly connect you with wonderful people from his community who could really use $5 a month for extra bread or a bottle of medicine or a can of milk for their children, or they have to buy bottled water now because the water is so poisoned. Every last thing they pay taxes on, they pay duties, they pay oligarchic fees that increase the prices. So please reach over those walls. We can do this. We've got to keep the Palestinians' hopes and lives alive for as long as it takes. Muhammad, anything to add or talk about this week? I was going to ask you about life in your original family's village, Shaphir. But is there anything else perhaps you'd like to talk about first?
Uh, I have to shed the light on two things, brother. First
Sure.
of all, I think all the people have listened about the cruel earthquake which took place last week, and this earthquake took place in southern Turkey and in northern West Syria. I have to tell you that always Palestinians are sharing the tragedy, even in this earthquake. Right now, according to some reliable sources, right now we have 80 Palestinians passed away in this earthquake.
Well,
Some of them,
as they were living in exile, the Palestinians were
exactly,
already living in exile, coming
exactly.
from Palestine to Syria and Turkey.
Exactly, and of course, most of them were in Syria, because you remember when we spoke about the poet Salim al-Nafar, we spoke about
Yes,
his refugee camp near
his boyhood
Latakia.
there. Yes, he was
Yes,
a small boy
exactly,
growing up in the most horrifically deprived conditions that you could almost imagine.
exactly, brother. So most of those died Palestinians passed away in Salim's camp near Latakia, and some other surrounding camps are locating in northern Syria,
Hmm.
between the two cities, the two big cities, Latakia and Aleppo.
Hmm. And what was the other thing you wanted to mention, Muhammad? I think you said there were a
Yeah,
couple of things.
Yes, brother. Yes, exactly. I wanted to add something. Exactly. I agree with you. Our water is totally polluted. This water shouldn't be given even to the animals, even to the cattle,
Hmm.
because it is
Hmm.
very, very polluted. I
Hmm.
want to link between this fact and between another fact, which is the high rate of cancer in Gaza. In
Hmm.
fact, cancer cases in Gaza is the highest in the world. If you want to make a comparison between the number of the cases and the number of population, our percentage of cancer is the highest in the world. According to some statistics, we have between 45 to 40, between 45 to 50 cases each week. Each week, we
Hmm.
have about 45 to 50 discovered cases of cancer.
And then to try to get care for cancer, to try to get good treatment for cancer for Palestinians is often impossible. I've read many stories of people who die while
Yeah,
waiting to get
yeah.
treatment in a hospital that is not 20 kilometers away.
And we have to notify that in Gaza, none of Gaza hospitals is qualified to
Right.
deal with those patients of
Hmm.
cancer. So your only option is to go out of Gaza to Egypt, to Jordan, to West Bank, to Israel, to have your medical
Treatment.
care there.
Yep.
I want to just, yeah, exactly, treatment, because the hospitals of Gaza are not equipped, not qualified to give you this sort of advanced treatment. Also, I have to shed the light on the reasons of this high rate of cancer. In fact, we have two reasons. First of all, we have pollution. You know, water is polluted. Most of our food is polluted. Besides that, we have the weapons which are used against the Palestinian
Hmm.
civilians during the Israeli raids and wars.
Hmm.
According to some Western communities and associations, they uh, made so many reports clarifying that Israel always is using the forbidden weapons, the
Hmm.
forbidden weapons which contains some chemical and some biologic components
Yes,
inside
and historians
inside those weapons.
and Israeli historians such as Ilan Pape and Miko Peled have pointed out with the documentation to prove it that they use Palestinian people as guinea pigs, as experiments on which to try new weapons. And when they see what the results of these new weapons are, they take that information to the weapons markets, to the fairs where they sell their new death machines every year. And they say, this one is great because it's already been tested on human beings in Israel. Well, it's the Palestinians who are on the receiving end of these terrible things. It's just almost beyond imagination, Muhammad, and we need to just implore people to contact their own governments and demand changes that allow for this kind of torture. It is torture. It is war crimes.
Yes, yes, brother. I agree with you, and I ask all the people to make some ethical movements to talk with their representatives,
That's
with
right.
their parliament members, their government ministers. I think they should make some ethical movement.
And as you said, you added on to everything we're talking about in Gaza, it is like it is now in Ukraine, is like it is now in Syria and Turkey, but for 15 years and more. So we cannot much longer stand by and allow this. Mohammed, as we move along today, we were going to talk about your family's original home village of Shaphir. Might open a little window of, well, some of the sunshine that comes out of this topic. There's a couple of wonderful films about Palestinian history before the Nakba of 1948. One is called The Land Speaks Arabic. The Land Speaks Arabic at YouTube. It is an hour listening to the elders of all sides of the early pre Zionist communities, and they lived together in peace and amity for about as well as any other human community ever did. In Shafir, Muhammad, your family was living there when the Zionists came with their weapons and told people literally to get out of the house. It wasn't theirs anymore, to leave and to never come back. But we were hoping to maybe ask you what you've been able to learn as a historian and family member about Shafir itself before all that happened. First of all, it lies about in the middle of the country, maybe closer to the ocean than to the deep interior. But what is the land? What is the lay of the land there? Is it very hilly country? Is it very flat? Is it full of agricultural fields and olive trees and things like that? Tell us just what it was like to stand there in Shafir.
Yes, brother. Thank you for this good question. In fact, let us speak first of all about the geography of Shafir.
Yes.
Shafir is a very beautiful village and very prominent village in the history of Palestine. This village was built in the late Bronze Age. We speak
Wow.
about something between 2000 to 1080 BC. 2000 to 1800 BC.
Okay.
So we speak about the late Bronze Age, and you know this very well as a historian. And I know that this is the area of your interest as a historian. Uh,
Is it flat?
Shafir,
Is it flat open country? Is it hillsides and places to graze animals? What's it like there? How does the town sit on the landscape, Muhammad?
yes, I am going to clarify, brother.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, in fact, Shafir was established by the Canaanites, but Shafir became bigger and bigger with the efforts of the people of the sea. People of the sea, when they arrived the coast of southern Levant, they used to live in Shafir and they used to widen the area of the village. So the village became wider and wider by the coming of the people of the sea when they came from uh, Crete and the other Greek islands.
And that's true of many Palestinian communities during that time, right?
Of
And
course, of
when
course, of
when
course.
your family lived there, Muhammad, do you have an idea of how many people lived in Shafir when your family was comfortably living there? How many people?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I am going to clarify, but let
Okay.
me speak about the geography, brother. In fact, Shafir locates in the coastal plain of Palestine,
Okay.
so it had a flat land, not higher than the sea level,
Yep.
but it's a very plainy and flat land. Uh, Shafir was divided into two halves by the crossing of Shafir Valley, and this valley was coming from the mountains of West Bank and was going through Shafir
Down to the
westward
sea.
to the sea, to the Mediterranean. So
Hmm.
Shafir was divided into two halves by this valley, the valley of Shafir. Uh, as I told you, Shafir was a part of Philistia land, the
Yeah.
land which was inhabited by people of the sea. Uh, during the the 19th century, the people of Shaphir were about 2,000. In the beginning of the 20th century,
Hmm.
the people of Shaphir became something like between 3,000 to 3,000 and a half, exactly directly before Nakba. So in the year 1947, the population were about 4,000.
I see. I see. And Mohammed, let's say, I want it's too general a question, but who were the people of Shafir? How did they tell their story when your grandmother and grandfather were living there with all their other family and the people around them, friends, neighbors? How did they understand their local history? Who to them built Shafir? Who were the peoples that were living there?
They told me, of course, as a historian, I was eager to know who is me, who,
Sure.
what is my race, what is my
Who's me?
strain, who's me,
Who is
what is
me?
my, yeah, what is my
Good.
tribe, what is
Mhm.
my origin.
Right.
Always, always their answer was only one word: indigenous. Muhammad, you are indigenous. When I ask my grandfather and the
Hmm.
grandmother, I
Hmm.
have only one word. The answer is one word. Muhammad, don't ask us again and again. Don't talk too much. Don't make gossip. Muhammad, we are indigenous. You are indigenous. You are the son of this land. We have long and extended roots inside the ground of this land since your Canaanite and people of the sea ancestors. You know, brother. So always they used to tell me, Muhammad, you are indigenous.
And so, as the Ismail family thought about their family past, their mothers and fathers, and their mothers and fathers, and their mothers and fathers, did they always conceive of themselves as Arabs? Were they always Muslim?
Of course, first of all, my first ancestors were pagans, and were worshipping the god Dagon, the god Dagon.
Philistine
Uh,
God.
yeah, Philistine god. Of course, all of my ancestors were worshipping this god. He was the original god of this area. After that, after Christianity, of course, they converted to Christianity. Uh, when the Islamic conquest came to Palestine in the 7th century, of course, some of our village people converted to Islam, and others remained on their religion. They remained Christians. So my family, including my family, uh, my my ancestors, Ismail, they were Christians, and after that they
Ah,
converted to Islam. But others remained on Christianity.
now, I think, well, I'm pretty sure that you were born after the family left Shafir. But did your grandfather tell about the village life there? Did they have a school for children? Did they have medicines? And what kind of food did they like to eat? What did they raise for their food on the land? What kinds of fruits, vegetables? Did they share music, poetry, singing? What do you best remember about the way of life back then?
Yes, brother. In fact, Shafir had one mosque, one church, and one synagogue,
Ah,
and has and
interesting.
has yeah, and has three schools: one for boys, one for girls, and the third one is mixed between girls and boys altogether.
Wow.
So, yeah, so they had three schools, and they had so many mills. You know the mills. which make the wheat
Yes.
fruit. You know, they
Yes.
had so many. Yeah, they had so many mills, so many, more than 6 or 7 mills in the village. Uh, that's everything. In that time, they hadn't electricity.
Right.
They hadn't all the means of our contemporary life.
And the mills were very ancient in the sense of they would be big round slabs of stone that were on a common axis, one above the other. And then there was an animal, perhaps a mule or a cow, that would be harnessed to it and turn the mill, and they would feed in the wheat and grind it into
Exactly,
the flour that would become bread, right? So
exactly.
there's every day of the week there are members of your family who are out in the fields gathering the crops or taking care of the plants, pruning the trees, taking the animals to get water. Was there good water in Shaphir?
Of course, brother, because as we mentioned before a while, a great valley was flowing from West Bank Mountains and coming through Shafir. So Shafir, along the passage of this valley, they
Uh-huh.
had very great amount of fresh and good water coming all the time from the mountains. Besides that, they had very good quantity of rain of raining.
Hmm. Good rainfall, yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've been asking you, what do you think was the main thing of their diet? What did they enjoy eating the most? Did they bring fish from the sea into Shafir? Did they trade the wheat away for other things with other communities? They must have had a great wealth there, living very well.
yeah. As you just mentioned, brother, Shafir wasn't a coastal village. It
Yeah.
was a little bit inland.
Yes.
So between Shafir and the coast, we had something like 6 or 7 kilometers. Uh, my ancestors, my grandfather, my grandmother, and their neighbors in Shafir, when they want to eat some fishes, some seafood, they used to go to Ashdod because Ashdod
Ah.
in that time was their destination to buy some seafood or fishes from its market.
And
Ashdod was
Ashdod is a very ancient city on the coastline, a little bit north of Gaza.
exactly, and Ashdod is the original village of my wife, Yada.
Ah, wow. That's good to know. And
Yes.
what do you think? What I'd like to ask you a two-part question. What do you think was the most difficult thing about living in Shafir? And what was the most wonderful that everybody talked about very good in their hearts? The most
Yeah,
difficult thing and the most wonderful thing.
yeah, very brilliant and smart question. But let me briefly speak about the corpse, about the harvest, about the
Sure.
plantation in Shafir. In
Yep.
fact, Shafir, Shafir had very fertile soil and very brilliant quantities of water. And of course, they had the Mediterranean climate. So all the time they used to grow the Mediterranean plants, the
Mhm.
olives, the the grapes, the citrus, etc.
Yeah.
And I forgot to tell you, beside the mills, which were 6 or 7 in the village, I think we had also something like 3 or 4 olive presses. We had some olive
Hmm.
presses in the village
Hmm.
beside the mills. Uh, Shafir was famous with so many kinds of plants. First of all was the tomato. Shafir was producing a very big amount of tomato. and the tomato of Shaphir was very famous in that time. They used to export this tomato to so many parts in Palestine and
Mhm.
even Transjordan. Beside tomato, Shaphir was famous of its sesame. You know the sesame.
Sesame, yeah.
Yeah, sesame. Yeah, and from sesame, according to our Mediterranean tradition, we used to produce the tahina, the
Tahini,
sesame
yeah.
past. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yes, brother. Finally, beside tomato and sesame, Shaphir also was famous of its watermelon.
Wow,
Uh,
you're making me hungry now.
yes, brother.
Let me
Shaphir
ask
was,
you a quick question. I asked
yeah,
you for something that they
yeah.
thought was difficult about the life and something that they loved the most. Something that was difficult, something that they loved the most about living there.
Yeah. In Shaphir, people loved its charming climate. The climate of Shaphir was something unbelievable. I cannot describe it by my words because, according to the testimonies of my grandparents, it was a charming climate. It was uh, it was a good climate in both in summer and in winter.
Hmm.
Medium climate, not too much hot, not too much cold.
Yes.
The climate was very brilliant, and we have to say that Shafir was a tourist destination for too many Palestinians. They used to visit Shafir in both in summer and in winter. This is a nice thing in Shafir, nice
Yes.
and the beautiful side of Shafir. If you want to speak about the challenging thing in Shafir life, in fact, the people of Shafir were suffering from so many things, like the locust. You know the locust,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Locusts. Yeah.
the locust, yeah, locust
They would
used so many.
destroy a lot of their crops, right?
This locust was coming from the south, from Negev and from Sinai Peninsula.
Hmm.
And when this locust come, it come with millions of flies. They
Yes.
used to attack in one time, so they used to destroy the plantation. They used to destroy everything. And in that time, they hadn't any kind of technology, of advanced technology, like to try to find a solution for this locust. This is one thing. Another thing, or second thing, in that time, they hadn't a good uh, medical. They hadn't a good medical
Tradition.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Situation.
If if someone had a heart attack, had a heart trouble, uh, a sudden health problem,
Yes.
mostly he die. Mostly he die because the nearest hospital was in Hebron. So this patient was to be carried by a
Don-
canopy, or
yes.
yeah, by a
Donkey.
canopy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that time, at all the village, they hadn't one vehicle. Vehicle were not
Yes.
available at that time, so they used to take him on a canopy or on a
A c
chariot
like a bed,
to the
like a on a bed that they would carry with a canopy over it.
exactly,
A canopy. Yep.
exactly,
Yes. Wow. They must have
exactly.
had strong
So
people.
yeah, for sure he will die in the way. Yeah, this was uh, uh, the cruelest challenge against the people of Shafir. So in that time, too many people used to die because There is no hospital inside Shaphir and even in the nearby. Last challenge was, of course, the Zionist practices. In fact, starting from the 20s, going ahead to the 30s and to the beginning of 40s, uh, the Zionist militias like Haganah, like Shteren, like Belmah,
Irgun.
they used, yeah, Irgun, they used continuously to attack Shaphir and to kill its Arab people, whether
Mohammed,
they
let
were,
me, please forgive me for interrupting right here, but we have just a
yeah,
couple of minutes left, and I think this calls, realizing what a vibrant, wonderful life there was in Shafir. I think this calls for us to talk next time about one
yeah,
day in 1948, when, as you've told me and we've written about in articles published online, they came to your family's home where they were having their midday meal and said, "Get out. Your life here is over. Take what you can carry and get out, and you will never come back." I think we ought to retell that story, my friend, and we could save it
yes,
for our very next program, a part two on Shafir before and after the Nakba, because your family
yes, brother,
history begins there. After that expulsion, they made your family, your grandparents, walk to Gaza, and by the side of the road, your grandmother gave birth to your father, who was named Jihad, because they said, "What should we call this boy?" He was born in the grass next to the road, and they said, "What should we call this strong-looking boy?" And they said, "We'll call him Jihad, one who struggles for his culture." And I hope you don't mind, but I don't think you will, that sharing your son's name, your beautiful 5-year-old son, his name is Jihad after your grandfather. And we call him Jojo nowadays. He's the most beautiful young fellow you could want to meet, but we'll get also to that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening today. We'll come back into the rich life of Shafir next time and its history right up through the 1948 and today, where its refugees, many of them, live imprisoned in Gaza. Please write to your representatives, contact them, email, telephone, maybe more than once, to demand changes that end the 15-year confinement and exile of Muhammad and his family from their original home. Second, look at Family to Family below and think that what a wonderful thing it could be to have a friendship with the actual Palestinian people, to reach over the walls of their confinement and make actual visible differences that you can see and enjoy and hear from them about in their lives. So once again, thank you very much, Mohammed. We have 30 seconds, Mohammed. Would you like to say something?
thank you, brother. Of course, we have to speak about Shafir again and again. I think we will need so many meetings and episodes to speak well about Shafir. Thank you,
Yes.
brother. Thank you so much for the people who used to watch us in this meeting.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Mohammed. We'll see you next time very soon.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.